Brian Shotton had everything money could buy: a real estate empire, a penthouse overlooking Chester, a life most people only dreamed about. But on Christmas Eve, driving home through silent snow-covered streets, he felt like the poorest man alive. Then he saw her, a woman who had nothing, asking for everything that mattered. Just one night not to be alone. It turned out they both needed the same thing. Before we continue, please help our growth by subscribing to our channel. Thank you. Now, let's get back to the story. Brian stepped out of the Shotton Group headquarters just past 11. His final board meeting of the year mercifully concluded. The city had emptied hours ago, leaving only scattered decorations glowing against the darkness. Garlands strung across lampposts, wreaths on closed shop doors. His driver, Sam, waited at the curb, engine idling. Brian pulled his Burberry coat tighter and moved toward the car, already mentally preparing for another night alone in his glass tower. Then he saw her. A woman sat on the cold pavement outside Trelawney's Jewelry, the shop where couples chose engagement rings, where futures were promised. But she wasn't looking at diamonds. She was simply sitting, shoulders hunched beneath an oversized coat that had seen too many winters, her breath fogging the window glass. Brian's first instinct was to keep walking. There were services for this. Charities, professionals trained to help people like her. One man couldn't fix systemic failure, but something in her posture stopped him. Not desperation, but a quiet, devastating dignity. She wasn't begging. She was enduring. He approached slowly. "Excuse me, are you all right?" She looked up, and Brian was struck by her eyes, deep brown, exhausted, but somehow still holding light. She couldn't have been much past 30, her black twists dusted with snow, her gloved hands torn at the fingertips. "I'm fine," she said, though her trembling said otherwise. "Just resting. In the snow. On Christmas Eve. Didn't realize there was a law against it." Brian pulled out his wallet. "Here, get somewhere warm. A hotel. I don't want your money." The words hit him harder than any boardroom rejection. Everyone wanted money. It was the only language he'd spoken for years. "You need to get inside," he said. "You're freezing." "And then what?" Her voice carried an edge of weary wisdom. "I get one warm night, wake up tomorrow, and I'm right back here. Your money doesn't solve my problem. It just postpones it." Brian hesitated. She was right, and they both knew it. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. "I'm offering help." The woman was silent for a long moment, snow gathering on her shoulders. Then she said something that would unravel everything Brian thought he knew about himself. "Could I stay? Just for tonight. Just so I'm not alone on Christmas." Brian stared at her. "Stay where?" "Anywhere. I don't know." She looked away, embarrassed. "Forget it. Stupid thing to ask." He should have left. Should have placed the money in her hand and walked away to a safe, temperature-controlled life. Should have let this woman remain a stranger. Instead, he heard himself say, "I have a penthouse, 6 blocks from here. Guest rooms. You could be warm. Have a meal. And you wouldn't be alone. Neither would I." Her eyes narrowed. "What's the catch?" "No catch. I'm just a man who doesn't want to spend Christmas Eve alone. And it seems you're in the same situation. Maybe we can help each other." "I don't do that kind of—" "I'm not asking for that," Brian interrupted. "I'm offering you a warm place to stay for one night. That's all. No expectations beyond basic human decency." She studied his face, the tailored suit, the salt and pepper hair, the tired eyes that matched her own. Finally, she nodded. "One night. But if you try anything, I'll find a way to defend myself." "Fair enough. Can you walk?" When she stood, her legs nearly buckled. Brian caught her elbow, steadying her. She was too light, clearly hadn't eaten properly in days. "When did you last have food?" he asked. "This morning. Soup kitchen gave me bread." Brian gestured to Sam, who approached with professional discretion, his eyes widening slightly at the scene but saying nothing. "Home, Sam. And turn the heat up, please. In the car, the woman sat pressed against the far door, still wary. Brian didn't blame her. She had every reason not to trust him. "What's your name?" he asked. "Mercy." "I'm Brian." "Brian Shotton." Her eyes widened slightly. "The Shotton Group? That's me." "Then you definitely don't need to lure homeless women to your penthouse. Rich people are the ones with the most secrets," Mercy said. But some of the suspicion had left her voice. "True. But tonight, I'm just offering warmth and safety. Nothing more." They rode in silence through the glittering streets. When they arrived at Shotton Tower, the doorman's professional mask slipped for just a moment before he recovered. The elevator rode smoothly to the penthouse, and when the doors opened, Mercy stepped into a world that seemed designed to showcase absence. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Chester's twinkling skyline, sleek furniture arranged with architectural precision, and in the corner, a massive Christmas tree professionally decorated, LED lights programmed to pulse in perfect rhythm, yet somehow utterly lifeless. "You have a tree," Mercy observed quietly. "My assistant arranged it. I didn't bother." "Why not?" "Because it's just me. Decorating for one person felt pointless." Mercy looked around the sterile perfection, then back at Brian. "You really are lonely, aren't you?" "Yes," Brian admitted, the word tasting like truth for the first time in years. "I really am." Brian showed Mercy to the guest suite. Marble bathroom, plush robes hanging like ghosts in the closet, a bed that had never been slept in. "Take your time," he said. "I'll have the chef send something up." While she showered, Brian stood at the windows, watching snow dust the sleeping city. He called his chef Marcus, who lived 2 floors down. "I know it's late, but I have a guest. Someone who hasn't eaten properly in some time." "Of course, Mr. Shotton. Give me 30 minutes. When Mercy emerged, wrapped in the oversized robe, her hair damp and twisted back, she looked younger, fragile, but her eyes held something fierce, a refusal to be pitted. Brian had laid out some clothes his ex-wife had left behind. Mercy accepted them with quiet grace. Dinner arrived on covered silver trays. Roasted chicken, root vegetables glazed with honey, fresh bread still warm from Marcus's kitchen. Mercy stared at the spread. "This is too much. It's Christmas dinner. Please, eat." They sat across from each other at the long dining table. At first, silence filled the space between bites. Then, tentatively, conversation began. "What did you do?" Brian asked. "Before, I taught primary school," Mercy said, her voice softening. "Year 3, 7 and 8-year-olds. You were a teacher?" "Was." The word carried weight. "Budget cuts. I was the newest hire. So I was the first let go. Lost the job, couldn't make rent, lost the flat. It happened faster than I thought possible." Brian felt something shift in his chest. Anger at a system that discarded people like her, and recognition of his own complicity in a world that valued profit over humanity. "What about family?" he asked gently. "Gone. Parents died when I was at university. No siblings. It's just me." "Me too," Brian said quietly. "My parents passed years ago. My marriage ended 5 years back. She said I married my company instead of her. She wasn't wrong." Mercy looked at him, then really looked, and something in her expression changed. Understanding, maybe, or recognition that they were more alike than different. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Every day. But regret is just noise. It doesn't change what's already done." They talked for hours. Mercy described her classroom, the reading corner she decorated with fairy lights, the way children's faces lit up when stories came alive, the small victories of watching struggling students finally understand. Brian talked about building his empire, the satisfaction of creation, the addictive pull of deals and acquisitions, and the slow, creeping realization that success had cost him everything that mattered. "It's strange," Mercy said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I used to teach kids how to hope, and I forgot how to myself." The word struck Brian like a physical blow. He saw her then, not the homeless woman he'd picked up off the street, but someone extraordinary, someone who'd survived the world's cruelty and still carried gentleness, someone who understood, lost the way he did. For the first time in years, he felt alive, seen. Mercy stood to leave, gathering her plate. Then she hesitated, turning back. "Could I stay?" she asked. "Just one night." Brian looked at her, really looked at her, and saw everything he'd been missing reflected back. "You can stay as long as you need." Silence settled between them, heavy with possibility. Outside, snow continued to fall, blanketing the city in silence. Inside, something warmer had begun to grow. Dawn broke cold and silver across Chester, light filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows and shafts that turned the penthouse ethereal. Mercy stood in the guest room, fully dressed in the borrowed clothes, her few belongings gathered. She'd written a note, simple, grateful, and left it on the kitchen counter. She moved quietly toward the elevator, not wanting to wake him, not wanting to make this harder than it already was. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. "Mercy." She turned. Brian stood in the hallway, hair disheveled, still in yesterday's shirt. He crossed the space between them in 3 strides and gently took her hand. "You asked for one night," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "But you gave me something I thought I'd lost, hope." Mercy's eyes filled with tears. "You gave me a reason to believe again. In kindness, in people, in myself. Then don't go. Stay, not out of charity or obligation, but because—" He paused, searching for words. "Because this place finally felt like home last night. Because of you." She looked at their joined hands, then back at his face. Slowly she nodded. 5 years later, snow fell softly on Christmas Eve as Brian and Mercy walked hand in hand through Chester's quiet streets. They ran the Mercy Foundation now, helping people rebuild lives after homelessness. She still taught part-time. He'd learned that giving meant more than acquiring. They stopped outside Trelawney's Jewelry, where a young man sat huddled against the cold, his breath fogging the same window where Mercy had once sat. She knelt beside him, her voice gentle. "Would you like to stay somewhere warm? Just for one night?" The young man looked up, suspicious and desperate in equal measure. Brian smiled softly at his wife, seeing the circle complete itself. They helped the young man to his feet, guided him toward their car where Sam waited, engine running, heat already on. Snow continued to fall, covering the city in fresh possibility. One night, that's all she'd asked for, but that night gave them a lifetime. Sometimes the smallest act of compassion rewrites everything we thought we knew about love, hope, and home. Sometimes 2 broken people find each other in the cold and discover that warmth isn't about wealth or walls. It's about choosing again and again not to be alone. Brian and Mercy had made that choice 5 years ago. Tonight, they'd help someone else make it too. The car pulled away from the curb, carrying 3 souls toward warmth, while behind them, the jewelry store's window reflected only falling snow and the promise of new beginnings. Thank you for watching. Please help our growth. Hit the subscribe button and the like button. Thank you.